essentially a form of internet money, and we could be looking at in 2014 a lot of websites taking this, but also individual businesses starting to accept Bitcoin. And I'd like to ask you, what do you think would be the benefits of something like this versus the disadvantages or risks of having something like this? And having said that, do you think that you would use Bitcoin in 2014 for your transactions or savings or something like that?
Actually, for myself, I'm not very tech savvy, but we do have a couple of things like PayWave and moneyless kind of payments. So I think to introduce Bitcoin into our current society may be a bit more difficult, and the uptake may not be as easy, because I think most of us use things like MasterCard, Visa, and for like cashless payment and even PayPal. Okay. So it's going to take a while for what you mentioned, Bitcoin, to come into Singapore. But it may play, may have a role, because there are businesses in Singapore doing with the US and 100% Tokyo, so it could happen. But
so overall, what I think you're saying is that there's a lot of digital payment and currency transaction and so on options in Singapore. So you see it as one option of many in Singapore. So it'll take right.
I can buy Bitcoin. I can buy off Jackspeed website without needing to use my credit card, and they won't detect and block me from buying. I think everyone will be very happy. Yeah.
So Singaporean credit cards have some viability issues being used abroad, whereas if Bitcoins were to be accepted abroad, there could be some Singaporean demand as far as shopping online and things like that using in Bitcoin, correct?
Yes.
Very interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
So in 2014, we have Overstock.com that's going to be looking on taking Bitcoins. We have W Mall in Taiwan that's going to be taking Bitcoins, and there are other retailers as well. So if we see more and more retailers taking Bitcoin in 2014, could you see yourself doing your Christmas shopping using Bitcoin to purchase your goods and whatnot?
Why not?
Interesting.
Yeah. So I guess depending on which retailers are the one who are willing to accept it. That will largely decide whether we are receptive towards Bitcoins.
Very interesting. Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot very much.
What have you heard thus far about Bitcoin?
It's a virtual currency. You can exchange for goods and services.
Okay, we're talking goods and services, so are we talking virtual goods and services? Or
No, for actual goods and services.
Okay.
So I guess it's gradually being accepted for that purpose.
Okay. So as far as in Singapore, do you see any real market acceptance of Bitcoin at this time?
No, I've seen newspaper reports about one or two shops that accept Bitcoins. Other than that, I think not.
Okay. On a personal level, what would you say the benefits and the disadvantages of Bitcoin would be for you?
It's I think it's totally unaccounted for, so we do not know how it really exists and how is the future of Bitcoin, because in future it may not be accepted. It's just based on expectations that in future they may be more accepted, but there's still a question mark. So it's still an iffy thing.
Okay. So do you feel that this is more kind of like the inception of the internet, when it was relatively unregulated, nobody knew what to do with it, it was highly technical, it was highly reserved for a specific subset of people? Or do you see this thing as more a fad and moving on to the next thing?
It can go both ways. It can be more accepted as more people adopt it. And maybe you have some famous people using Bitcoins, and then you have the trend going on from there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So perhaps famous people using it, there might be a trend towards greater
adopting
acceptance at that point.
the practice.
Great.
Right.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Popular before you yourself would use it.
Yeah, because there's nobody control on this, so I'll wait for it to become more popular first.
Okay, so your concern right now is that there's no central control of this currency, so you have some concerns about that?
Do you use credit cards for internet transactions?
No.
Do you like use eBay and so on?
Yeah, but I use debit card.
You use debit cards?
Yeah.
Nets and
Nets,
Nets.
Yeah.
POSB bank transfer and all that kind of thing. Okay. Why do you think you trust the POSB and DBS much more than say like a P2P currency?
Because if there's anything that goes wrong, I can actually get back to somebody, you know, that I know that can help.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Great insight. Thanks.
Thanks for your.
Where essentially money can be sent all over the world with a zero transaction payment cost. It's currently used for internet shopping. It's also used for real goods and services in real stores in some cities in the world right now. And I'd like to ask you, if Bitcoin becomes popular in the year 2014, would you see yourself using this for shopping or saving in this virtual currency? And what initial thoughts would you have about it?
In year 2014, usually I will keep it as a saving. I will put it as a saving, will be much more better.
Okay, so you're thinking about using it in terms of saving. Now, let me tell you, one Bitcoin right now is $700 USD, more or less. It was 3 months ago about $100 or so, about 4 months ago, roughly. And it went up to a high of about 1,200 and since come down to about 700. So would that sort of fluctuation make you feel comfortable in taking it? You think that there could be an upside? Or would you be more concerned about the risk of very volatile fluctuations?
Of course, for us, we will definitely be a bit of risk itself.
Okay.
But everything we have to think it properly first because we should invest into all these things itself.
There's always a level of risk involved.
Yes, definitely will be a risk.
Would that be a level of risk that you'd be willing to accept? Okay. So would you see yourself doing this more in terms of saving, or if you would see more of a risk, would you immediately want to change whatever you made in Bitcoin over to Sing dollars?
Of course, you will change it into a Sing dollar.
Immediately?
Yeah.
Okay. Then in that case, there would be no risk of losing value. There would be no appreciation opportunities either. So that's what we have here. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
guys
time.
get back
Thank
to
you.
your time. Thank you.
Thank you very.
Like what you say is Singapore, we got to accept a lot of changes, a lot of new technology.
So what he's saying is like if for electronic commerce, for electronic transactions, like in Singapore we already have things like this, like nets and so on, where it's linked to bank accounts and you can pay just directly like this, or you can use Visa PayWave. So other forms of electronic commerce, like if it's not linked to a bank like Bitcoin.
No, EasyLink also actually all linked to bank, like EasyLink, everything. Even you have the senior citizen card.
Yeah.
So long as there's a transaction involved, what this guy is doing.
Bad traffic.
I think the difference with your current payment systems and Bitcoin is that Bitcoin payments would not be running through a bank. It would go from the customer directly to you,
Yes.
or directly to your cab company, but potentially directly to you. And you could be looking at less transaction fees. If it's done the right way, the transaction fees would be zero. And I would wonder if you would feel comfortable taking that as a payment option for taking a trip in your taxi.
Yeah, Uncle, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a good idea. Of course, whenever we need to be well versed with kind of different payments, but some feel that they rob them of their daily earnings, because some are very cash strapped, you see. Some
For taxi drivers and so on, people who need cash payment.
People who need really cash from the right hand to the left hand.
So if it's not linked to a bank, and it's almost like physical currency, but it's electronic in form, and you can get payment instantly without having to go through bank services or a card company.
Precisely.
You will welcome that quite a lot.
Of course, like those. Now that we tap in, then tonight or the next morning we get the money, but not all people can accept. Not all drivers can accept that. Some just come up with at least maybe don't even have $50 change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like myself, sometimes I mean, it's not that they're nothing to be boast or proud of, but sometimes I come out with less than $50. The customer give me $100. I say, you want me to go to the police station with you?
Yeah.
No, some morons, I even have previously one big moron that for $10 he pulled out $1,000 and asked me to cash it. I say, what?
Yeah.
If I have $1,000, I wouldn't be driving a taxi today. I'd be in the karaoke singing my love bites.
So would you be okay if the payment form was in, let's just say if it was the 10 Sing dollars?
Yeah.
So we might be looking at 0.010 Bitcoins. Would that be a denomination that would work for you?
Yes, that's any kind of transaction. You got to welcome.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And especially since we just came from Taipei and we noticed that there was a lot more conservative attitude towards taking payment in Bitcoin. They overwhelmingly cited cybersecurity as a reason why they would be reticent towards taking this payment method. So I find it very interesting that if you represent a lot of taxi drivers and they're thinking in Singapore, you guys are very...
My view. I mean, Uncle been in the offshore industry for 28 years, so...
Oh, I thought it used to be offshore oil and gas, is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm also in the energy industry.
When I get retrenched, my last alternative is I don't want to go back to the offshore because I'm 60 over years old. Oh my god. I should have taken... Okay, never mind.
Okay.
City Hall, yeah.
Is it?
It's the same.
Okay.
Raffles City taxi stand. Yeah. That's Raffles Hotel.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's the Grand Old Dame of Singapore.
Fantastic.
Which is owned by
I have to say, this is one of the most...
Before it's owned by private, but now it's owned by...
I have to say, what we just talked about was probably the most fascinating conversation I had about Bitcoin this morning.
Yeah.
Because I'm so surprised what you said. You would just immediately accept it, and you wouldn't think about the cybersecurity or losing it or something like that. That it shows that you guys have a much more sophisticated view on a digital form of money, whereas in Taiwan,
in Hong Kong,
people said, "Well, I can't touch it. How can it be real?" You know?
Yeah, in Hong Kong the same. Yeah, but in Singapore, like I earlier said, that you got to move up with cash trap and whatever lingo they call it. You know, be it check or bounce. Even sometimes we get nasty, like you say, the guy he put 2 cards and 3 cards.
Yeah.
And bounce off. We can't do nothing.
And then, would you consider it a risk if Bitcoin would go down from its current value of about $700, or you wouldn't be concerned with that?
No. I mean, in this transport industry, where we don't earn 100. I mean, we don't earn more than $100-$200 a day. It doesn't affect much on our. Of course, some they say, they claim that they earn $200-$300 a day. They must be driving from morning to night without sleeping.
Wow. So, if somebody were to pay you in Bitcoin for the taxi ride, do you think that you would keep it in the hope that it would appreciate?
Yeah, of course. There's some kind of what they call that cash. What call on. Monetary returns. It's better than you put in the bank. That's
a very, very sophisticated mindset that you're carrying.
In our taxi industry, some are very, we call it the triple K, Kiasu, Kiasi, and Kiapo. Yeah, I think my friend here knows very well. Even last time they offered me as a, what call it? They of a taxi driver. They asked me to be in part of the show. I said no, I can't because this is my livelihood. I don't want to get the taxi company involved.
Very, very interesting.
No, because you got to look open mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to this one?
Raffles City taxi stand. Thanks.
And then, are we pretty much here?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
I really appreciate your insights.
Okay. That's
Because
alright.
Singapore, look at it this way, it is totally different from Indonesia, Malaysia, or even Hong Kong. Hong Kong surpassed us earlier in the early 60s, 70s, 80s, but now Singapore already written surpassing them. So yeah,
we're kind of nuts. What to do? It's a living. Okay.
That is a wrap.